Hey everyone, either welcome back or welcome to my channel. And in today's video, I actually want to talk about the diagnosis process for IIH. So I've shared my diagnosis story of how I was diagnosed, but I kind of wanted to get into more detail about the actual diagnosis process itself for IIH. So before I get into any more details, time for the intro. Back in 2018, I was diagnosed with IIH. IIH is short for idiopathic intracranial hypertension. In short, in IIH, there's an increased intracranial pressure without a known cause. IIH is known by two older names, pseudotumor cerebri and benign intracranial hypertension. Living with IIH is very hard to explain to others, as it can be hard to tell when I'm not feeling well. My hope is that through these videos we can learn together and help make relationships better through a better understanding. I also hope to provide people living with IIH a community so they never feel like they are alone with this condition. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell down below so that you get updated about further videos. I upload new content every Monday and Thursday afternoon. I've done a couple of videos sharing my diagnosis story. One was really long. The second was a lot shorter. I will link my diagnosis story for me down in the description down below so you guys can see that. But today I want to go through the diagnosis process and talk a little bit more about the details of the diagnosis process. The outline for diagnosing IIH is generally imaging, so there's a MRI usually, and then there's optic nerve and visual tests, and then the lumbar puncture. Some people might go to their optometrist and just be in for their normal checkup and they happen to catch swelling in the optic nerves, or they might even just go in because they're having visual symptoms and they want to make sure everything's okay, and then they pick up the optic nerve swelling and then from there they get referred on. I know for me, when I'm often was getting headaches before I had IIH, it was often because I needed a prescription change or something in my glasses, and sometimes it can be because you're using the wrong prescriptions or all that. So some people will generally go for that and then they just pick it up. With the ophthalmology test, it actually, they did a lot of testing that first time I was there. It was probably about 45 minutes worth of testing. And so I'm just going to go through the ones that they have listed on this website and kind of talk a little bit more about them. So I'm just going to have to look over here again. So a thorough eye exam, which not only tests how well you see up close and up distance, also visual field testing to determine if there are blind spots in your central peripheral side vision. So with the visual field testing, this is something that I still get tested actually all of the time when I go to the ophthalmologist. And what it is you stare at a black dot and they flash lights around you for several minutes. You have to look out of one eye and then the other, and if you're not catching the flashing lights or you're seeing extra, can indicate problems in your visual field. So that's quite a common one. They also do color vision testing. I haven't had that one since the first time I went. Test to evaluate pupil function. Eye movement testing, yeah, I get that tested all the time. An assessment of the appearance of the optic nerves inside the eye to determine whether there's swelling of the optic nerve, called papilledema. So what they do is they take a picture of the optic nerves with quite fancy cameras, so they're able to see exactly what the optic nerves look like. It actually is really cool. I really wish I had images myself, but unfortunately I don't have them. The next step is that you'll have a lumbar puncture, and by far this is the worst procedure that you have during this time. I find that the ophthalmology test can be quite uncomfortable too, with the bright lights, especially if you're having a bad day or if you find yourself more photosensitive that day. It can be quite painful as well, and particularly after you get the testing done, because it'll seem like you were just overwhelmed with a bunch of lights and lasers and all of that. But by far the worst one is the lumbar puncture. So lumbar puncture is also called a spinal tap. During the lumbar puncture, they'll test the pressure. Mine was 35 when I had my pressure done. hopefully they tell you. I specifically asked what my pressure was because I knew that that's one of the main things they were looking at. And also at the same time, they're going to probably take off some fluid just so that they can do some testing with the lab. I hope this helps a little bit understand the diagnosis process. I know a lot of people who watch my videos have probably been through this type of diagnosis process already because a lot of people who watch my videos are already dealing with IIH. And so this is a video that I hope you will share with your family and friends and to show them just how much it takes to get a diagnosis like IIH. There's a lot of objective testing involved with diagnosing this condition. So be sure to share with your friends and family if you want a nice summary as to what to expect with an IIH diagnosis and what exactly you went through. It might help them form a better relationship with you and all of that as you go through this journey. So, with all of that said, if you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below. And as for now, that's it for today. Bye, everyone.